What's up, Bridge family? I wanted to say thank you so much for being a part of our Unfinished initiative. We believe God is going to do great things over the next 2 years. I specifically am coming to you right now to talk to you about what we call the Unfinished Commitment Card. I wanted to talk to you about it and how it works. This is a spiritual tool for you to use as you think and pray through and ask God what God might be asking of you when it comes to your financial commitment to this initiative. Let me break down how the card works and we'll talk through it together. On the first page, there is a brief breakdown of how all the funding will be used over the next 2 years. We've talked about that other places, so I won't recap it here, but you can read through that when you get the card. Over here, this is the part that might seem a little confusing at first, but this is actually really helpful for your journey when it comes to this initiative. This is a calculator that will get you to whatever the amount you are giving is for the next 2 years. The number we're going to pay most attention to is the number that goes in this final orange box here. But let me explain how the calculator works. In the very first box, what you can write in there is whatever financial amount you've already been contributing to the bridge over a 1 year period. You write that amount in here. As we go through this initiative, we want to celebrate that so many of you have already been giving to God's work at the bridge, and we want to say thank you for that. So you can write that number in right there. For some of you, you might have no number to write in there because you have not yet started giving to the bridge. Maybe you've never given before in your whole life. That's okay. You can just leave that first box blank. And in fact, when we receive commitment cards that have the first box blank, it's one of the most encouraging things because it means that you have started giving for the very first time at the bridge, and we praise God for that, and we want to say we are so proud of you for taking that step. So the first box is whatever you're contributing over the course of a year already to the bridge. The second box is what you're committing to give each year over and above what you already had been giving. And again, that's for a 1 year period. That's what you're saying, I'm sacrificing this for God's work because I believe He's calling me to be a part of this Unfinished initiative. I want to see more people saved. I want to see more people set free. I want to see this community reached. I want to see marriages restored. I want to see addictions broken. And so you're committing above what you already had committed for the sake of that work coming about. When you add those two boxes together, you get a subtotal, which you'll put in box 3, and then you multiply that subtotal by 2 years because this is a 2-year initiative. So you'll be giving that amount that you commit to in the third box, you'll be committing to that amount for the next 2 years. So the amount that you get in box 3, you'll multiply that by 2 and then write it into box 4. The last box is a very important box that talks about giving beyond that out of what you might call stored resources. Let me give you an example from my personal life. So we've committed to a certain amount, Joanna and I, to give to this initiative each month. But besides that, I've got an electric guitar in my basement that I never play. It sits there collecting dust and it's probably worth a few $100s. So I'm gonna sell that guitar and give that amount to the initiative. That's a stored resource that I possess that's just sitting in my possession that God is asking me to contribute to this initiative. For you, that might be an item that you might sell. It might be cash in the bank. It might be stock assets. Maybe you have a vehicle that you're not using. Maybe you've got a condo you're not using, whatever it is. All of us have stored resources in our possession that God may be asking some of us to contribute to this initiative besides what you might be giving on a monthly basis. Again, that's all between you and the Lord to process and pray through with Him. Once you have those top 5 boxes filled out, you add them all together, and that gets you to this orange box here, which is the total amount you are committing for the next 2 years. You can write your name in the bottom, and as I've said before, I'm not going to see who gives and how much they give, but this will just be a way that our administrative team can reach out to you, keep you in the loop, and say thank you for what you are contributing. Lastly, on the back page, this is potentially the most important part of the entire commitment card. This is what we call the gift chart. This is a chart that maps out one way that the finances could come in over the next 2 years. The way the chart works is there's a column that shows the amounts that might be given, and then there's another column that shows how many people might be led by God to contribute at that particular level. So at the top of the chart, there's some large numbers that only a few people might contribute. At the bottom of the chart, there's smaller numbers that we anticipate and hope and are praying for many people to contribute. And then there's also a bunch of numbers in between. So one way that you can approach this process is asking God, where on this chart are you asking me to be? What level, what pace on this chart are you asking me to contribute my finances? And as I've shared before, Joanna and I went on our own journey when it came to this chart. We had already been giving 10% of our gross income and then a few percents beyond that to missionaries that we believe in and support. And we landed at a certain level at first on this chart. We thought God might be leading us to go to 15% of our giving. And that was a number on this chart that we felt the pain of it, but it also felt like a manageable number. But the more that we prayed and processed, the more we believed that God was asking us to go to a higher level of commitment and to actually double the giving that we had already been giving to the bridge. So for the next 2 years, we're going to double the amount that we have been giving. That's a faith decision for us. That's a stretching decision for us. That's a decision that will come along with some lifestyle changes, but it's one that we are eager to make. We are excited to contribute at that level because we so deeply believe in what God is doing through this church. I just want to close by saying thank you so much for being on the journey with us. Thank you for wrestling. Thank you for processing. Thank you for praying. We believe that God will lead every person to a level of generosity based on what He wants to do first in your heart. This is at the end of the day a spiritual decision between you and the Lord, where you're putting a greater amount of trust in Him. Trust in Him to provide, trust in Him to come through, and trust in Him to take those finances and use them in a powerful way to build His kingdom. Lastly, I just want to invite every single person to hand in one of these commitment cards on Commitment Sunday. That will be the big day we all come together and say, this is what we are committing to do as a church family. Also, if you feel like you know your number early, or maybe you're a leader in the church, we want to invite you to the Advanced Commitment event. It's on November 5th at 5 p.m. It'll be a time to come together, celebrate what God is already doing in this initiative, and then to hand in a bunch of commitments early before the rest of the church. It will help build momentum and excitement and solidarity as we move forward as a church family. I just want to say one more time, thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for giving. Thank you for sacrificing. We believe that God is just getting started, and this is just the beginning of all that He wants to do in Alexandria, in Campbell County, in Northern Kentucky, in the greater Cincinnati area, and all around the world. Love you so much. Thanks for coming on the journey.